policy statement from the government. We know that the Finance Minister, Dr. Kassia Atuforsen, will be in Parliament to deliver President Mahama's first budget. It's a statement that is made on behalf of the President, setting in motion the fiscal policies for the year, but the monetary policies, tax measures, a whole lot of things that basically determines how the national resources that are coming in throughout the year will be managed. And it's important to indicate that the NDC, while campaigning to win elections, did sign a 120-day social contract with the people of Ghana. And within that document, they made a plethora of promises. Key amongst them were a number of taxes that they indicated they will be scrapping. Now, we've got an indication from the Finance Minister through his engagement on X Spaces over the weekend that, yes, government intends to fulfill those pledges. And so a number of questions come up about the issues of the shortfall in revenues. If you look at some of the taxes like the COVID-19, the e-levy and the betting tax, we are looking at in excess of 6 billion cedis. And the question is, how will government make up for that shortfall? He has suggested that there will be expenditure cuts. Will it be enough? Will government again be able to provide in terms of social spending? Not forgetting the free SHS will still be in force. We are yet to hear the full details from the education review and what changes that will be making. All of that will be the focus of our discussion as we build up to hear from Dr. Kassia Atuforsen a lot later. And you have to stay here, right here on TV3. We have the best team, we have the best guests who will be joining. We're bringing you analysis on all the issues and how the budget concerns you from the start to the very end of the presentation and help you make sense of it right after as well. But even before we start this whole discussion, we're going to take you back in history a bit. And there's a very common denominator that we identify. You remember when the MPP government took office in January 2017, they had also promised that they were going to deal or do away with taxes they had termed to be nuisance taxes. The then Finance Minister, Ken Ofori-Atta, when he took to Parliament, did announce abolishing a number of those taxes. Let's go back in history and watch and listen to Ken Ofori-Atta, the then Finance Minister in 2017, deliver his very first budget statement.
Mr. Speaker, a number of tax measures have been introduced in recent years in an attempt to deal with revenue shortfalls. Some have proven to be nuisance taxes. They have low revenue yielding potential and at the same time impose significant burden on the private sector and on the average Ghanaian citizen. As part of our commitment to re-energize the private sector, government has decided, as pledged, to review these taxes to provide relief for businesses. Mr. Speaker, the following specific measures shall be implemented in the short to medium term. With this budget, abolish the 1% special import levy. Abolish the 17.5% VAT on financial services. Abolish the 17.5% VAT on selected imported medicines that are not produced locally. Initiate steps to remove import duties on raw materials and machinery. Initiate steps. Order. Mr. Speaker. Honorable members, order. The time for debate will be ample. It will soon come. We will initiate steps to remove import duties on raw materials and machinery for production within the context of the ECOWAS Common External Tariff Protocol. We will abolish the 70.5% of domestic airline tickets. We will abolish the 5% VAT on real estate sales. We will abolish Mr. Speaker, we will abolish excise duty on petroleum. Mr. Speaker, we will reduce the special petroleum tax rate. We will reduce the special petroleum tax rate from 70.5% to 15%. Mr. Speaker, members, order. Mr. Speaker, to all of our friends in Abosokai, we will abolish duty on the importation of spare parts. Mr. Speaker.
Order.
Mr. Speaker.
Honorable members, shall we continue?
Let me tell you what, it was an exciting story for many Ghanaians. They received that announcement with excitement. They were happy. It was a moment of change that had taken off on such a good note. People were expectant. They thought, well, this will be the difference maker. I mean, we all saw what happened subsequently. And it's important to put in context that later that year, the free SHS took off as well. And so the government's purse was quite burdened. And afterwards, we saw what became of the economy subsequently. There are those who attribute it to external factors. There are those who attribute it to internal factors. But the point being made is the fact that the government walked into power on the pledge, on the basis of making promises that, well, they're going to scrap taxes. They did scrap taxes, and some say that that affected the economy. Now, the NDC story is not any different if you look at the campaign prior to the 2024 elections and the state of affairs now. Very similar narrative. And let me now walk you through what the NDC indicated in its manifesto. And so, in terms of what they were going to scrap, reference was made to the e-levy, the COVID levy as well, 10% levy on bet winnings is one levy that, I mean, there are lots of disagreement on it. Some say that, well, it should actually be increased to serve as a deterrent and also rake in some more revenue. But a lot of young people on social media, particularly X and other platforms, hold the view that, well, what's a government pledge? It should be, the government should simply stick by it. The emissions levy is another levy that has also been earmarked for possible scrapping. Import duty on vehicles and equipment imported into the country for industrial and agricultural purposes. The government also indicated in its manifesto, the NDC manifesto, that they were going to apply the price stabilization and recovery levy on fuel to cushion consumers. They indicated they wanted to also rationalize the fees and charges at ports, and that has always been a major issue. There are vehicles that people buy, and when they are bringing them in, just because of the fees and charges at the ports, the price goes up significantly. A comprehensive reform of Ghana's VAT regime to provide relief for households and businesses also came up quite strongly. Beyond doing away with revenue that the government could comfortably obtain, the government decided that, well, some freebies were also going to come in. So first, no academic fee policy for all first-year students in public tertiary institutions under the No Fee Stress initiative, the free tertiary education for persons with disability, and also the free primary health care. The government didn't stop there. Free sanitary pads for school girls, among others, and free technical and vocational training for young people in various crafts. The government also promised free laptops or tablets for students. We know that it had previously attempted to implement that under the first NDC one. We also saw attempts made by the exiting or the just exited another Danko Akufo-Addo-led government also. They also tried to implement a similar policy. But free primary health care from the CHIPS compound to the polyclinic level in the short to medium term is another promise in the NDC manifesto, and free access to social and health services, public transport for Ghanaians 60 years and above. They intend to also develop a survivors care kit for victims of gender-based violence, including free legal services, medical examinations, emergency contraception, HIV, mental health care services, and necessary medications as well. So we see an interesting story unfolding, a government very determined to achieve a lot of its promises. And the story that we are putting across today is the fact that, well, a key way governments win elections is the pledges they make proud. And a lot of the times we've seen that the starting point is always the relief for individuals, and mostly the taxes go off. And once they are done with that, they now extend the helping hand by way of the freebies that they put across. But all this has implications for the economy, and that is why the first budget that is being presented by Dr. Kassiel Atuforsen later this morning is very crucial, because don't forget, Ghana since May 2023, we've been under an IMF program, and what that program basically does is that there are benchmarks that we ought to meet in terms of our revenue generation, even expenditure cuts, a host of other benchmarks that we have to meet. And so what will be the impact of some of these tax measures that the government will be introducing? Let me walk you through that just about now. So the projected revenue losses from the taxes to be abolished, betting tax, e-levy, and the COVID-19 levy, and we are looking at about 7.6 billion cedis annually. And so that is very tough there, and we'll see how governments will get around all of that. And to help me make sense of all these matters that we are putting across this morning, I have the men who can do justice to the issues. Dr. Edu Owusu-Sarkodie is an economist at the University of Ghana. Doc, it's very good to see you. It's been a while.
Yes, it's good to see you too, and good morning to
Where have you been hiding, Doc?
I'm just trying to refresh and then come back to studio and learn one or two things. I was away on some ECOWAS technical workshop, so it also took some of my time.
I see.
And academic life, we just vacated, so
at least it gives you some
room. You have time, so I'll be coming here more often.
It's good to see you. It's good to see you. And a regular on the show, Nana Yaw-Sapon is a senior political aide to Alan Kojo, chairman, the Movement for Change, and I'm sure it's the great transformation plan that he has in front of him. Is that correct?
It's like a King James version of the Bible.
Okay.
You can't do away with it. Doug would agree with me. As academics, they've had the opportunity to read through to peruse this document, and they would attest to the fact that it is undiluted. It has in it very good practical and achievable recommendations. And, I mean, if we had this on the table and we're going to solely go by it and some other steps in addition, I do not think that we should not be able to move Ghana from where we are to a stable, growing, sustainable economy. So basically, yes. I mean, well, you look good in your Ghana.
I don't know what the patterns mean. I mean, I'm sure I'll figure it out.
You don't have to know. I always tell people that you do not have to understand. You just have to adapt it for the good of it. You get it.
Thank you.
You don't have to understand. I mean, it looks good. And when the media and everybody is celebrating Ghana, like the Thai dog is having on, then I would always remind them that there was a man called Alan Shomantin who, in his time during President Kufuor's era, took a bold step to revive and revamp the garment and textile industry and to introduce what we call the Friday wear. And that is what actually took us all into this church cloth, school tie, department ties, and this created a lot of jobs. And so if you would want your economy to move a step further, you need to be able to take certain bold steps. I mean, it would be unconventional. I mean, there are certain steps that you take that are very much unconventional and not known to the people and not well accepted. But when you have looked at the good of it and the future where you want Ghana to be, I think that you need to be able to take such steps.
I mean, Nana, let me start with you on the budget conversation. I mean, oh yeah, we'll go to Doc. We are just doing the initial remarks. I'll zoom in on the specifics with Doc. But I mean, Nana, I mean, when you woke up this morning, I mean, you know that the budget is being presented today. What are the top issues that come to mind? I mean, for me, my curiosity was on what the government's approach will be in terms of revenue generation, especially because we keep getting the sense that no new taxes are going to be introduced, and that could have dire consequences. I don't know whether that is something that comes to mind when you think of the fact that there's a new budget that will be read later this morning.
Thank you very much, and a good morning to your viewers. And those persons who are driving and so would do their listening. There are a lot of people that listen to you while they drive to work. And it's good to see Doug again. Yes. When I sit in the midst of academics, I get excited because they'll give you a lot of books, and a lot of reasons to reason.
Yeah.
And you've asked a very interesting question. Now, with this particular budget, I decided to take very keen interest in the steps to today. And to be honest with you, I was very much impressed with the unusual, unconventional way of gathering information and data by the finance minister in his attempt to get feedback or first-hand information from the open market, where he walked into some of the markets like Makola to meet one-on-one shop owners and business dealers. And I've always said that when it comes to the issues of forex, when I say it, people laugh. I say you have the rate, but Abuchi has the dollar.
Yeah.
You might have all the book knowledge you have, but the shop in the market is not yours. You understand? The goods that are being imported are not yours. The goods that are being manufactured are not yours. They belong to someone, and it is that one person and that faces the challenges out there on the ground. So if you need information to be able to feed into your documents, it means that you would have to go to that person directly if you want undiluted information. Because if you sit in the comfort of your office, people will come to sing the song you want to hear. And definitely, when they sing it and it's sweet, you will dance. But at the end of the day, it is nothing. And so I got excited when I saw him. In my own view, the timing was not so good, probably he should have done it earlier, maybe somewhere in January or mid-February. You understand? So that it would have given him one, ample time to be able to process this information. Two, it would have given him the opportunity to meet many more people in other regions and in other markets. But of course, it's commendable. He's done a very good work. And on Saturday or this Sunday, I had the opportunity to also join in the X Space conversation. Yeah. I think I was on for about an hour or two.
Yeah. I have seen a story attributed to you where you are saying that all the young people were saying was that they needed jobs.
Of course. All what they, if you, after staying on for about an hour or and a half, the questions they asked, all their contributions, is that what are the steps the finance minister is going to put to be able to create more jobs so that we are recruited? See, they might not agree with me, but the fundamentals are this. Our economy is not entrepreneurial friendly. The economy we have in Ghana does not encourage people setting up their own jobs. Now, the economy we have today, as of today, does not also allow or support businesses, existing businesses, or give the existing businesses the opportunity to expand. Now, government is not able to absorb the number of graduates or the number of skilled hands or talented hands that we have. Government does not have the space. And if a government does not have the space to recruit these numbers, what the government have to do is to create the enabling environment for job creation and for existing business expansions.
Okay.
How do we get there? And that was where the conversation is. You get me?
Yeah.
So what we should be doing is to be able to push existing business. I mean, if you ask me my expectations for this budget reading, this is his first budget reading. He's reading on behalf of the president. Yeah. This is the foundation of the government led by JDM. The foundation to determine whether or not the government will succeed or it will fail. If he gets this wrong, the whole Ghana would know. In Sobeta, say, inframedica. So this particular inframa, if it is bad, we would know. If it will cause a lot of storm and destructions, we would know. If it will bring us good rain, that we would be able to cultivate our crops well and it will grow, we would know. Okay. Why do I say this? I say this because the budget apparently is the document that is going to pair the revenues of government as per policy spendings. You get me?
Okay.
So it would detail the programs that government is going to spearhead or trigger. Now, the programs government is going to trigger from its foundation would be able to tell the subsequent ones that would follow.
Okay. Okay.
You get it?
Yeah, I get you.
Because this is the foundation of it.
Yeah.
And if your foundation in your infrastructure development or your house building is weak and the materials in which you use are not so good, it means that your pillars and whatever you are doing would come down.
Okay.
So this particular budget means a lot to Ghanaians.
Okay.
It should have certain key focus. It should be explicit on the programs of government. What government is going to do in terms of debt management, the proposals they are going to bring about. Two of my major areas I will be looking at is the agriculture sector.
Okay.
We should be looking at food sovereignty. And I keep repeating food sovereignty, not because of anything, but the fact that we talk about food insecurity, and what we do is that we try to manage the situation. We've done a lot of cash crops. I mean, Doc would agree with me that all the books he has read about Ghana's economy is cocoa and gold, cash crop and minerals. That is what has been supporting our economy for.
Okay.
But have we actually tried to look at what food crops will do for us?
Okay.
If we are able to do more food crops, eat what we grow, and export the rest, are we able to look at adding at least 40% of value to the cash crop produce that we have? Have we looked at that? I would also be looking at how he would want to deal with the issue of credit accessibility and availability, and its affordability.
Okay.
You understand me? The existing businesses needs loans to work with. New businesses needs loans to work with. How available are these loans? How accessible are these loans? How affordable are these loans? I mean, these are some of the things we should be expecting from the finance minister.
I mean, we'll get into a bit more of the specific sectors quite shortly. Let me come to Doc now and just engage Doc. Doc, we have been under an IMF program since May 2023 when we got the board approval. And I'm going to read something to you. It says here that it is common knowledge that our economy is in dire straits, which is putting it mildly, because after an initial assessment of the books, we have discovered that our economic problems are much deeper than was publicly known. We have inherited a country that is broken on many fronts. This is the description that the current president, His Excellency John Dramani Mahama, gives the Ghanaian economy. One will ask the question that, does this suggest that since May 2023, we have not made any strides towards where we want to get to? Because it's a 36-month program. We shouldn't be at this point, if you are even agree with this assessment to start with.
Let's go back and look at the picture clearly. The economy was doing better. I think before COVID struck, the disturbing variable in the economy was the debt servicing, which was taking about 33% of revenue. We all know the devastating effects of the COVID. We did not recover. We had not finished recovering, I should say. Then we had those geopolitical disturbances, which brought some tensions. We saw the impact of many economies in the world. Ghana had its own peculiar domestic challenges. But what made matters worse was the lack of access to the capital market. Successive governments in Ghana had always gone to the capital market to borrow to stabilize the cedi. So when the door was shut and were downgraded, then all the variables decided to or began to deteriorate. We saw balance of payments running into negatives, our reserves were running down, and that's why there was no other option at that time than to go to the IMF program. In fact, we also saw how the Bank of Ghana stepped in to pump in some money. For them, they said that it was a liquidity support because Ghana government had lost access to the capital market. So they came in to provide some liquidity support. Many people disagree with the printing up to 40%, etc., etc. So this was the picture. And then we went to the IMF program. The IMF said that before we give you a program, you must restructure your debt. It takes me back to my first comment that before COVID struck, the most disturbing variable in our economy was the interest payment because our debt was high. Yeah. So IMF comes in and they reiterate the point, says that your debt is unsustainable. You must do something about it. Restructure, reprofile. We chose the option of restructuring. And then in the restructuring, we also chose the option of haircut, both principal and interest. We have seen some recovery. The variables are clear. We ended the year 2022 with inflation as high as 54%. Today, we are talking about 28, 25%, 23%. The cedi was depreciating so fast, around 40%. Today is better. But the point is that even the IMF boss came to say that Ghana's economy is still on the recovery path. It has not fully recovered. It's still on a recovery path. If you compare these variables, inflation, exchange rate, GDP growth, to the figures we saw in 2022, in early years of 2023, we have seen some progress. And I gave you a typical example. Our BOP is in positive now, current account is in positive now, our capital account is, the reserves is building up. Our CD is still depreciating, but it's not as fast as early years of 2023. But I think most people, so the conclusion on that matter is that the economy is still recovering. It has not fully recovered. The figures we see now are still far below, or still far higher than, or better than what we saw in the early years of 2023. But you want to compare our performance before COVID. The pre-COVID performance, we have not gotten there yet. Pre-COVID performance, GDP growth rate averaging 7%. Today we are talking about 5%. So we are not there yet. Inflation was around 9%. Today it's around 23%. Bank of Ghana themselves project 8 plus or minus 2 for the medium term. That's between 6 and 10% inflation. If you are doing 23.1, that's more than double. So we are not there yet. So most of the figures that we see now suggest that we are making progress, but we are not at the point of the pre-COVID levels that we were. So the public debt has always been a major problem. And let me take this opportunity to say this. I'm just coming from some ECOWAS technical workshop. I listened to the presentation from my colleague from Nigeria, Ibadan University. He made a point that Nigeria has capped their public debt at 40%. They're not going beyond it. So it doesn't matter the budget deficit.
As a percentage of the GDP.
Yes. Yes. That's why I'm saying that we should be serious. Nigeria is doing something fantastic. And they are not better than us. I'll give you the figures. They're not better than us. So Nigeria is capping their public debt at 40%. You don't go beyond it. They have a Fiscal Responsibility Act as we have. But in Nigeria's case, they cap their public debt. In Ghana's case, we cap the budget deficit and not the public debt.
And even that there is a leeway for an extension to be obtained if necessary.
So look at that. Beyond the capping of the debt to GDP ratio of 40%, they also put a restriction on the composition of the debt. Domestic, 70%, external, 30%. Why? Because they know the impact of external debt borrowing on your currency. The moment you begin to pay the interest external, you need to change your cedis into dollars, you demand more dollars, and your cedi depreciates. Ghana has a higher HDI, Human Development Index, than Nigeria. Ghana's per capita income is higher than Nigeria. So on a per capita basis, Ghana is far better than Nigeria. What are they doing right? By capping their debt to 40%, the natural resource. Let me also, somebody will say that, also, what do you suggest that we cap our own? I will speak to this question by speaking to data and science. About 15 years ago in Kenya, I listened to a presentation by a Ghanaian PhD student. His thesis was on the public debt and growth. He concluded that the threshold for Ghana's public debt as a ratio of GDP should be 44%. That beyond 44%, we begin to see a negative impact of the debt on growth. And we know job creation comes from the growth. Then about 2 years ago, just 2 years ago, I listened to a similar presentation by a master's student in my department. He gave a range between 44 and 46%. So clearly these two theses are speaking the same language. They've come to the conclusion that the better threshold or the best threshold for Ghana's debt to GDP ratio should be around 44%.
I mean, but Doc, the challenge will obviously be that it's an economy that is heavily dependent on debt. I mean, in terms of the projects that we undertake. And so if you are going to keep all of that out, the question now becomes that, do we have enough internal sources? Our tax ratio is very low, I mean, compared to our colleagues within the region.
I'm coming there. So how is Nigeria able to do? Nigeria has put up a new capital, Abuja. They constructed it from scratch. They have natural resource. We also have natural resource, right? Their participation interest is 51%. Our participation interest in oil is 16%. That's the difference. The natural resource of Nigeria, the oil is about 5% of their GDP. However, it accounts for more than 60% of their exports and accounts for more than 60% of their revenue. In Ghana, all our natural resources put together, you know, okay, so the oil accounts for about 5% of our GDP. It accounts for roughly all the natural resources account for about 68% of our exports. Yet they contribute to 15%, only 15% of our revenue. The difference between Ghana and Nigeria is that Nigeria gets enough revenue from their natural resource. Ghana does not get enough revenue for our natural resource. But that's why they're able to cap their debt. Yep. We have to cap our debt.
Yeah, but Doc, that's particularly due to the agreements that would have signed.
But are Nigerians from space?
No, I mean, because
they are also Africans.
Because a lot of the times, these are companies that, and from our studies of natural resources, I mean, they enter into those agreements simply because we do not have the capital to upfront do the massive investment in technology. So we give them better deals, and some of these deals are not things that we can restructure immediately.
I agree, but what's your plan? In the immediate term, in the short term, you said you don't have the capital, but you've been able to go to Eurobond market to borrow. What's the difference? Couldn't we borrow to raise the capital and have and increase our share in it? We could have done that.
Okay,
but that's point one. Point two, Nigerians have a plan to get the ownership gradually. So first of all, assuming we all don't have the capital, allow the private man to come in. But what's your plan as a nation to claim ownership as we go on? I am telling you that at IFS we did a report. Nigeria has 51% share of the oil. Ghana has 16%. That is a big difference. Yeah. And we came into, Botswana has 55% share. So we came into conclusion that if Ghana is able to claim ownership just as Botswana and Nigeria, we'll be able to add to our public finance $4.5 billion annually. $4.5 billion annually. This is the difference between Ghana, Nigeria, and Botswana.
I see.
Now, to land.
Okay.
I'm speaking to figures, between 2011 and 2018, again with big figures to do our research, the economic rent, which is economists' way of calculating profit, because we take into consideration the opportunity cost of capital, right? So after deducting all the costs plus deducting opportunity cost of capital from the revenue, the economic rent in the natural resource in Ghana in 8 years amounted to $43 billion, not cedis, dollars. In Ghana here, the profit. So after deducting all the costs and even deducting the opportunity cost of capital from it, in Ghana here, in 8 years, the mining companies raised $43 billion. Ghana government, because of the kind of contract that we've signed, we earn only 10%. That's about $4.2 billion from it. There's a clear difference between Ghana, Nigeria, and Botswana, and they are blacks like us. They are not even talking about Saudi Arabia. I'm not talking about Norway. They are on a different level. I'm not talking about China. China produces lithium. Ghana, we are going to start producing lithium. Yeah. Look at the arrangement. The natural resource should be a public asset. We should not private. We should not treat it as if somebody should have the ownership. As we have now, Ghana is the #1 producer of gold in Africa and #6 in the whole world. Last year, we produced about 4 million, according to Bank of Ghana, 4 million ounces of gold, valued at $6.2 billion. The money is here. It's in the natural resource. If you ask me as an economist, where are we going to get the money, enough money to transform our economy? I will say nowhere but the natural resource, not in taxes, but natural resource, not in royalties, but natural resource. The royalties that they pay in the minerals alone. And my brother was talking about taxes and the possible tax cuts. Here, these are the figures. COVID-19 in 2020 would give us 1.6 billion. The royalties from minerals alone, 1.8 billion. Listen to the figures well. 1.6, 1.8. 2023, COVID-19, 2.1. Royalties on minerals alone, minus oil, 2.8. Look at the relationship. In first half of 2024, if you, let's say, double it, COVID-19 will give us 2.2. royalties will give us 1.95, almost 2 billion. What am I saying? I'm saying that COVID-19 revenue that is giving government is similar to the royalties that we are getting from the natural resource.
Which is a big problem.
Exactly.
It's a big problem.
Exactly. Yeah. So if you are crying about removal of COVID-19, etc., etc., I'm sure we'll come to that debate.
Yes, we'll come.
I have my own case.
Yes, we'll come.
If you want to replace it, find a double of the royalties. Again, I conclude by saying that there's nowhere that we can get enough money to transform this economy but the natural resource.
Nana, I just want to make a quick point.
One minute. I mean, the taxes are issues we'll talk about, but I just wanted to also draw our attention to the fact that the fact that you have absolute control of your natural resources does not automatically reflect in the sustainability of your economy. Now, he was doing a comparison between Ghana and Nigeria. One, Nigeria has a very huge market. Two, Nigeria has put in measures to be able to curb importations of certain commodities. It means that instead of taking the money out, the money is retained. I mean, a good example is their rice sector. You cannot import rice in Nigeria. They consume rice a lot, and they've been able to put in measures, policy measures, to curb that. Three, you see, they have put in measures to be able to control and strengthen the forex. Now, the repatriation of their profits, if you may recall, it got to a point certain key foreign companies in Nigeria actually stood up to government and said that no, they are not going to do that. You could not buy even tickets in dollars. You would have to buy it in naira. You understand? And these are measures that Ghana would have to take.
So it has to be a comprehensive
it's a comprehensive approach. And in Nigeria, everyone was talking about the businesses. Even in Ghana here, in Nigerian banks, they know how to do business better than Ghanaian banks. Why do I say that? If you go to a Nigerian bank, their collateral policy is different from the Ghanaian collateral policy. In Nigeria, you will find a very young businessman, okay, who would have access to loan. I was talking about accessibility, availability, accessibility, and affordability. Who would have access to a certain amount of money to invest into his business that the Ghanaian bank would be looking for collaterals in heavens and in the hell for you to give out. So there should be a key balance. I do not want us to put our concentration on only the natural resources. There are other aspects that will give us quick money. Because you see, with the natural resources, we do not even have the technology. And the whites, technology normally you get it?
Yeah.
Look at how long it has taken us to be able to even have Ghanaian trained, skilled managers at the top level of our companies. Mining companies.
Yeah. And even
it's taking us ages.
But even with the petroleum companies, I remember we had a lot of regulations in place that were supposed to ensure technology and all of that.
And as part of the contracts, they will just put in there the transfer of technology. Yeah. But indeed, on the ground, it is not that. Okay. So we need to be able to put in some of these measures to meet what Doug is.
Nana, I'll come back to you, but let me bring in Ambassador Sampi Yali. He's the president of the NDC Professionals Forum. His Excellency, it's good to see you.
Good to see you too.
I'm good. How are you doing?
Good.
What's top of your mind this morning? I mean, the first point is that the NDC clearly has indicated you've inherited a challenging economy, but in the midst of all of that, you have not come to the party empty-handed. You've come with a lot of freebies and good things for the people of Ghana. Ghanaians just simply on the street, they say that they want you to fulfill your promises. Simple.
Good morning to your viewers and Doc and Nana.
Yes, sir.
You see, when discussing Ghana's economy, I ran away from the GDPs, the communities. I ran away from them because they don't reflect the real issues on the ground. You understand what I'm saying? Because the Bank of Ghana may be saying something and the market women too are saying something different. The economy is never coming together. That's where the problem is. Now, I totally also disagree that our challenges is as a result of COVID. I totally disagree, because we all are aware that we had a lot of inflows as a result of the COVID. So nobody should have COVID as an excuse for the bad economy. We have very serious structural problems with our economy. For example, ownership. Ownership. We had Vodafone, we have sold it, right? We have now created Airtel Tigo, Airtel 80, and it is in red already.
Yeah, I mean, the finance minister told us serious losses.
It's in red already. Yeah. It's contemporary. It's MTN. MTN declared dividend about 5 billion. So what is the reason why one company in the same sector is posting dividends and another is posting losses? What is it? That's why you people, economists, you have to find the reason. Is it managerial? Is it what? But if this is happening in maybe South Africa, the government would have come in. You see, with that anti-trade, whatever it is, to control it. But it appears MTN is in a monopoly now, virtually in a monopoly. But when they declare the profits, does it stay in Ghana? It goes away. Are you following what I'm saying?
Yes, no.
It goes away. Now, our mining sector that these experts are talking about, it's not in our hands. We have very little control over that. So for me, any discussion that does not discuss the basic fundamental structural problem, we'll just talk English. One, you have oil. You have the oil refinery. If you refine your oil in Ghana, you are going to have a lot of products, byproducts. Yet we export. Oh, because of the agreement we signed. Because of the agreement we signed. Now, should our lawyers not take a look at the agreement we signed and the clauses under it? Because in those days that we were doing the agreements, we were just begging for investment.
Yeah.
Please come. Now, these investors like Talo and the rest, they have made their profit 2 times, 3 times. So the love for profit against the love to help this country should be balanced. You know, I am from Rahanta, and I don't see the effect of Talo, even when their Q3 point installation is in my village. I don't see it.
I mean, I am from the Elembele area. I was there in December, and the area just, I mean, you have these fanciful projects to aboard. Those projects are all over.
But the townships are dying.
Yeah, they are basically the same.
You see, this is where we have to look at. You see, because any development that is lopsided towards GDP and the rest, without the development of the people, is no development. Japan, you can't go and say you have made profit when the people are suffering. You can't. In America, you can't say that. But what is it that we write agreements that support the expatriates than us? That's one issue that I'm worried about. Then we have borrowed ourselves into this crisis. Before then, we would try to develop. Remember when you were growing up, or communities would start to do something for themselves. Communities would try to. Now everything is about our development partners. Everything is about development partners. And when they come in, they don't come in as for the Christmas. They come and see your weakness, your managerial weaknesses, you know, your local incompetencies, and then exploit you. These are the things that we should be looking at, not the strictly the numbers. Then, apart from that, you see, we have a very awkward tax structure. When a Ghanaian wants to do business, what do we give him as tax exemptions? What do we give him as incentives for development? Let a white man go borrow money from a pension fund somewhere and come to Ghana. Accurately, we are giving him tax exemption. Even if he's building a hotel, 36 million hotel tax exemption. Right? These are some of the things that we should be concerned about. When we have done that, then the figures themselves will settle. When it comes to economics, I'm a street economist. I don't go the book. I'm a street economist.
But Ambassador, in doing this, should the starting point not be that government ought to come into power being a bit measured in terms of the promises that you want to make, in terms of doing away with taxes and also the free items that you're extending to people? And earlier, we played a clip of former Finance Minister Ken Ofori-Atta in 2017. It appears a very similar approach. They came into power, they scrapped a lot of taxes. Few months later, free SHS and a lot of free policies took off.
I was coming to the point about the economics of politics. You see, the economics of politics in Ghana is like, say anything that the voters would support. The voters have taken that attitude because they believe that they are not benefiting from this country, what belongs to them. You go to your hometown, right? The coconut trees are dying.
Yeah.
Nobody is doing anything. The potholes are not being filled. So when you bring yourself up that you want to be a politician, what do? I'll do this for you, I'll do that for you, I'll do that for you. In anticipation that you are a truthful person, they vote for you. And when you come and meet the real issues, then the problem starts. You know, because of the winner takes all, or the nature of our politics, it's affecting everything. I believe that I'm waiting on Atu-Forson to see how he's going to reverse some of these trends that we are talking about here. You know, some element of nationalization of our natural resources is very, very important. You know, we and Cote d'Ivoire almost had the leadership role in cocoa, right?
Yeah, we still do.
We still do. And yet we cannot control cocoa prices.
The shortfall.
The two, he's talking about the two.
The two of us.
Okay. Combining the
Yes.
Okay.
60%.
You see,
that's
and yet we cannot control cocoa prices. Is it our colonial mentality that the white man is always better than us? You see, so I think that, one, my expectation for this budget are more than the economic figures. My expectation for this budget is how they address the concrete problems of the man on the street. You see what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
Because nobody is eating GDP. You go to Rwanda, South Africa, and you know them. They are building social houses for the people.
Very much.
Social houses for the people to live in.
Okay.
What is government? Government is sitting in Land Cruiser and making noise. No, that's not government. Government is solving the problem of the people who put you there and who, by God's grace, pay taxes to maintain you. So I'm looking at Atu-Forson today, how he's going to stop the over-borrowing. Everything is borrow. Everything is borrow. And mobilize us. Ghanaians, we don't lack intellectual capacity. We have. We have. So if you have intellectual capacity, you have natural resources. You have the human resources in terms of intellectual capacity. What is left? Common sense.
I see.
What is left is just common sense.
I see.
So I have, for a long time, advocated for Ministry of Common Sense. Because we all know what has to be done. No, so
we are simply not doing it.
If you ask him, he will give you economic theories and practice. Tanaya will give you plenty. Quick talk. So we don't know that converting our cocoa to cocoa chocolate or something will give us more money.
I mean, I always say that.
I belong to your school of thought.
No, but I always say that even if you pick,
finding your oil.
Even if you pick our primary school social studies books, they are all in there.
Primary school social
studies. Oh, it's in there. I mean, I remember those books. They said that add value to raw materials. All of that.
That is where the great transformational plan comes in. The aspect of attitudinal mindset and attitudinal change. We know what to do, but when we are put there as the managers of our economy.
Maybe let me be direct. Let me be direct now to ask you this question. You see, Ambassador makes the point that to win elections, you have to sell that kind of message to the people. Now, after winning the election, you cannot. Atu-Forson cannot tell them he's not going to scrap the COVID levy.
No, you see that is where we get it wrong. when you are, I said it somewhere, when you are on the campaign trail in opposition and you are drawing your manifesto or your plan whatsoever, it became an argument. That was just on Saturday with some of these political scientists and everything. We make promises or make statements based on the information we have. Mm-hmm. And I use the phrase that manifestos are myopic minded, and they fought me. I said that it is the information you have. You are just seeing your nose, and so you alone see your nose. You say your nose is beautiful. Me, this my nose I have. It can take me to Canada or London, where it looks like a white man's nose. But it is when you have seen the white man and you see how pointed and long his nose is that you know that that is not your brother. You understand? You are not twins. So when you have come into government and you are faced with the reality of the figures, when you are faced with the reality during and after transition, because even me, I always say that during transition, if you're not careful, the outgoing government will deceive you with the figures. It is when you have taken over and gone to office and you have taken the books and you have looked at, then you will know the real deal. So manifestos and promises, in my view, evolves. And for that matter, when you are faced with the reality, you should be candid enough to tell the people that this is the situation. Senior, were you not surprised enough that a government goes to meet labor union and tells them that we want to increase wages, but we can only do for 10%. And labor union, Ghana for, decide not to say no, accepts it, and comes out to say that for the reason that of where we are today, we are taking the 10%. Meanwhile, yesterday, they fought 24%. It was because government was candid enough, and the people have realized the real situation in which the country is. Mm. And are having some hopes for tomorrow. Okay. You understand? So okay. If you have made your manifesto, you have gone out there to campaign. Of course. Now, may you remember the brand bread? If you know who says, give me a Santini, what you say? Maybe when I was dating her, I was giving 1,000 Ghana cedis. I was going to
finish my points.
Okay, yes. Yeah,
so it's the reality.
There is also, Doc, you know that there's import-export imbalance.
Yes.
How on earth would you be importing offers from there?
Tomatoes from Burkina Faso, a desert.
On earth?
A desert.
And it's not that we have not done it before. We had a soldier man called Kanabanasco. He came and say, Operation Feed Yourself.
Feed yourself.
And we fed ourselves. You know, so is it enough for some agriculture ministers say that, oh, we imported this, we exported this? Is that enough?
I mean, in between 2017, we had the planting for food and jobs.
And what happened?
I mean, but sometime last year, when we had the food issue, we had to look outside the country to import and store.
That was the most fraudulent program we have ever run. You see, if you run planting for food and your net production is plantain, which was not part of the program, you see, apart from that, what else had happened in the planting for food program? Nothing.
Okay.
Just wasted money.
You see, just to add to that, planting for food and jobs, and our concentration. In fact, people who were even into cash crops benefited from this planting for food and jobs. Cash crops is not food. And if you remember, I sat here and I said that if we are able to move our attention from the cash crops into food crop, the grains, do you know how much maize, millet, wheat, rice that we consume as a nation? For the past 4 days, if I ask you,
I mean, you don't have to ask. There's rice. There's always rice in there.
You understand? So
even poultry products.
Poultry products, the chicken and the egg that we have. Yeah. So if we are able to move our concentration just for 1 year to put in all the agri mechanisms that we have into this food production, I do not think we will need, because the cash crops. You agree with me that we do not add value. after we have exported the raw, in pretense that we are bringing in the cash, we use this cash to import maize, rice, wheat, and tomatoes from Burkina Faso.
They are going to be worse. Do you know what they are doing?
They are banning the...
They are
going to feel worse.
Yes.
Let me come to Doc now and let me pick off a point that Nana Yao made about the promises that are made prior and when they come into power. And let me be a bit more direct. I mean, some of these taxes that government wants to do away with, like the E-levy, the COVID-19 levy, they have been estimated that they are looking at a revenue loss of about 6.4 billion. I mean, if you add the betting levy, you may cross 7 billion. Do you agree in principle that these three taxes should go?
Well, let's look at the rationale behind taxation. You tax for two reasons: to raise revenue and also to, affect consumption of an item. If you don't want people to consume more of this, you tax more of that. So let's check the three. Betting, is it for revenue or for deterrence? COVID-19, is it for revenue or for deterrence? The E-levy, is it for revenue or deterrence? I bet you all three are for revenue generation. So you come to how then do you design a tax to raise revenue? You design your tax to raise revenue in such a way that you tax the areas that have high revenue generating potential.
Okay.
And then that's where you tax. You design it also in such a way that the compliance will be easy, cost of collecting the revenue will be low, and you have high, revenues. Now, let me turn the discussions to these three. I take it one after the other. Betting. My position on the betting is that if you want to introduce a betting tax, you must not tax the person's win, tax the profit. Because the person might have incurred some costs before winning. So, for example, you bet say 20 cedis, then you win and your prize is 100 cedis. The tax must not be on the 100, it must be on the 80.
Okay.
That's my position on the betting tax. Okay. All right. Should it go or should it not go? If you redesign it in the manner in which I have described, I want to keep it. Tax the profits, subtract their costs from their earnings, and it tax the profits.
But even let's stay on the bet. Is there even a basis for us to want it to go on a pure discussion that it's income? I mean, it should be taxed.
Yes, income must be, even gifts must be taxed.
Yes, yes.
But I asked Nana and other panelists have said, it's based on political promises.
Okay.
We've seen a similar situation. And before I came in, you were playing some of the videos of 2017.
Yes.
Very similar. Very similar. This tax must go, this tax must go. We saw a dip in revenue. The budget deficit widened and they had to borrow to make up for the loss. Are we going to see a similar situation? I bet we may see a similar situation if they let go of these taxes. So enough of, as the ambassador said, enough of the politicization of the economy. And my professor always says that there's always a dichotomy between economic efficiency and political expediency. Fine, that's why you've not invited and too much of politicians with entrenched positions, but you invited economists like myself. So my economic understanding of the betting tax is that you must tax the profit.
Okay.
If the person incurs 20 cedis cost to win 100, tax the 80, not the 100. Okay. So keep it that way. Second,
let's come to or you want to stay on the betting levy?
No, I'm going to, so I'm taking the one after the other. So E-levy.
Okay.
E-levy. I have my article on it. It won me an award from theconversations.com. My argument in the article is that E-levy in its present design is not supported by any economic theory in the design. Yeah. Because you are taxing transfer. I transfer, you tax. I transfer, you tax. I transfer, you tax. I transfer, you tax. It's not supported by any economic argument, right? So what is the proposal? Change the design. You can tax the charges. For example, I'm using MTN as an example. If I send 100 cedis, MTN takes 1%, let's say 1 cedi. Tax that 1 cedi. When you tax that 1 cedi, MTN is likely to increase the charges to say 2 cedis. Yeah. You've gotten your revenue, right? So tax the charges. MTN can decide, or the telcos can decide based on the analysis of tax incidence, can decide to push 60% on consumers or 40% on consumers, 50-50, right? So redesign and tax the charges. Secondly, redesign and tax the e-commerce. There are so many commercial activities going on electronically. Find a way to tax it.
In fact, a lot of them these days are quite dollar denominated, actually.
Yes. We go to watch football, you buy the ticket with Momo, tax it. We go to watch play, you concert and all that, you pay with Momo, tax it. A lot of commercial activities going on the internet using, the services. So that's why you must tax. But the present design of I transfer 100 cedis, you tax. I transfer 1,000 to my mother is tax. I transfer to my account is tax. My account to my wallet is tax. That one, I will not support it. So redesign the e-levy. My position on the betting tax, the COVID
levy, yes. I mean, that levy, it was to impose a special levy to be known as the health recovery levy on the supply of goods and services and imports to raise revenue to support COVID-19 expenditure. Again. I mean, we are not within that period, but there are those who make the argument that we can simply amend to change what we want to use it for.
Yes.
Maybe, for instance, turn it into a free SHS levy or something else.
I agree to that position. I had a discussion with one professor also on this, and he agrees with me that the COVID-19 levy, the amount it raises is similar to the royalties on the minerals. And I've given you the figures already. So they are similar. The royalties on our minerals, COVID-19 is giving us that much.
The current percentage of royalties.
Yes, the current percentage. Yeah. So my first proposal is that if you want to get rid of COVID-19 levy, double the royalties from 5% to 10%, right? And then you are not making any loss, because then you are getting rid of, let's say 2 billion, and you are getting 4 billion. Okay. So you are not making any loss. Okay. If you don't want to increase the royalties, which in my position, I think that royalties must be increased from 5% to 10% or even higher. If you don't want to do that, then COVID-19 must be kept and redirected.
Okay.
Change the name from COVID-19 to health something, for two reasons. Just yesterday on your network, I listened to the current Minister of Health go around the Agenda 111. He made certain pronouncements that the financing deficits.
Yeah.
Yes. So use part of the COVID-19, rename it, and direct part of the funding for the completion of these health facilities. Secondly, we are talking about NHIS. The automaticity in terms of the transfer to NHIS is not forthcoming. For example, the government will raise, say, 5 billion and will not transfer automatically all the 5 to NHIA. They will transfer, let's say, 2 or 3. So if you ring fence, change the name of COVID-19 to a certain name, health-related name, resource the NHIA very well, so that they can include certain diseases that are not covered. In recent times, we've been discussing the dialysis.
Yeah.
Yes. So keep it, give a certain percentage, 40%, give it to NHIA. They increase their funding. Then they can accommodate all this dialysis and all that. So, and Ghanaians have gotten used to the payment of it. So why change it? What problem is it causing?
Okay.
Right? So I believe, given these three, just redesign and keep it.
Okay.
Other than getting rid of it, and you are keeping the expenditure, the e-levy and the COVID-19 levy are able to finance free SHS. The free SHS cost last year was 3.2 billion. These two together are giving us 3.7 billion.
Yeah.
So the e-levy and COVID-19 levy are enough to finance the entire free SHS cost. So if you are getting rid of it, then you are getting rid of free SHS. I don't see why we want to put pressure on government to remove taxes which are not nuisance, but nuisance in terms of its design. That's why I said we should redesign
them.
But why are we putting pressure on them, or they are putting pressure on themselves to abolish the taxes, but they are not abolishing their obligation by providing public goods and services like free SHS, like school feeding program, like all these safety nets. We want the government to finance them.
We take me to the follow-up question.
We don't want them to raise revenue.
We take me to the follow-up question, Doc. And I mean, the sense we get from the finance minister, we are not likely to see a redesign. They are just going to go. But the other question now becomes that he says, well, they are going to cut down on expenditure. Again, it's something that we have heard from the previous administration. Kelo Furata said that multiple times.
Yeah.
The problem always is that those cuts are mostly not even quantified.
Yes.
So it is even very difficult to make sense
very good point
of the analysis.
On the waste, how much are you going to save from the cut of expenditure? He did not place any figure on it. I listened to him during the vetting. So his pronouncements during the vetting can give you a sense of what should be expected, in the budget. He says that, now this is the gap, revenue and expenditure. This expenditure, this is revenue. He wants to get the revenue down. He wants to bring expenditure down, not in the sense of, getting rid of specific expenditure items, but through efficiency. So, like things like reducing the number of ministers, reducing the number of ministries, a ban on traffic.
Some of the travels.
He said no first class, something. He's banging his hopes on all these things, and then the other one, the recent one is what other wastage. And like I was saying, we are not able to quantify it, and most of these gains are from medium-term to long-term gain. For example, I think there is a culture which has been combined with the Ministry of
Chieftaincy.
And then the local government. So, for example, if the chieftaincy was standing alone, it would have grown, right, and become bigger and bigger. What you have done now to put the two together, it means that you are getting rid of the growth of if the culture was a single ministry on its own. So that is the gain you are going to get in the medium to long term, but not short term. In fact, in the short term, it's very difficult, like you said, to quantify how much waste you are going to cut to make up for this. We may end up, if care is not taken, we may end up by getting rid of all these revenues, taxes and their revenues, go and borrow again. Because there's no way you are going to get rid of free SHS. There's no way you are going to get rid of all the safety nets. On top of it, you have promised the first year universities and training colleges that you are going to take care of their school fees in the first year. Have they complained? Have they complained? I mean, I don't see the point on that proposal. Have they complained? For a long time, have you seen university students demonstrate about their fees? When I was a student, we used to demonstrate. But for like more than 5 years now, we've not seen university students demonstrate about this. Now you're going to promise them this. At the same time, you're going to reduce revenue. Promise them, if care is not taken, second years will come, demonstrate, and you'll be pressured to include them. Third years will come, you'll be pressured to include them. Fourth years, before you realize the entire university education is free. Meanwhile, the public benefit of high school is higher than the social benefit of the universities. Universities' private benefit is so high, so going there is by choice. Why should the government take it upon itself to promise that you're going to pay the fees of when there are other avenues like scholarships and loans and etc., which must be resourced to make up for this? So it's going to be very difficult for them, and I think that for the betting and the e-levy, I am very 100% sure that they will get rid of it. But the COVID-19, he did not mention it. That may be kept.
Let me come to Ambassador before I come back to you. Ambassador, I saw you shaking your head on a few things.
I'll be very surprised myself if the COVID levy
goes up.
Is not kept.
Okay.
Because you see, we took some monies during the COVID time.
Yes.
There were no free gifts.
Yes.
They had to be paid. Like Opon Kuma said, the monies we took. But at this stage, like they are saying, we can change the name and use it for many other purposes. So I'll be very, very surprised that the COVID tax will be changed. I do not think that they have to change that.
I'm also having a feeling that it should be kept.
To be kept.
Okay.
Now reduced.
Okay.
The rates.
Whichever way, COVID will be there. You see, the problem with the betting tax is of a two-edged sword. You don't want to encourage your youth to be doing that. But in the interim, what alternatives are you providing? You see what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
So I do not expect the betting tax to travel beyond 3 years when we say that the economy is improving. by our policies that we say in 24-hour economy is going to give the youth job. Who will go and do betting when it's going to work? You know, Chief, it is not that Ghana has not done it before. We have run Nanaya, TDC, Tema. You are in Tema. And in the evening, you saw Vacu bars, GTP bars, buses after buses.
Yeah.
There was one company that had about 4,000 workers for morning. Those who have made the testers near the sign. Yes. We've done it before. So what went wrong? You know, is it the over excitement with the private sector? Chief, all the industries we attempted to privatize. What gains did we have? Now, the warehouses which used to house, you know, merchandise made in Ghana goods are now mostly churches. You know, so I have a feeling that having listened to the people of Ghana during the manifesto and synthesized it with what the IMF, now you know we are under IMF program now.
Yes.
We will not come up with a program or budget that will lead us back to borrowing. It will not. It mustn't have to be the case. If we are able to put our things together as a country, stop the over politicization, pulling whatever program down. Like we are not in the same party or whatever it is. But he agrees with me that the COVID tax must stay because it's going to serve public good. You know, but some people are on television this morning. He said you are going to remove the COVID tax. Remove it.
Yeah, you promised us.
You promised that. That is the fear I have.
Okay.
Now, with the education, you see, I was not education in our days was not as expensive as it is today. What has changed? You go to school, there are no textbooks, but meanwhile, a course is expensive. The lecturers are giving you handouts. Sorry if you are one of them.
I am not.
You see, they are giving us handouts. And this handout, they call it grandfather notes. So nothing has changed.
Yeah.
Yet, every year, they increase it. At a point, government must come in. Chief, it is for big men like you, who don't suffer going to the university when you have got admission letters. People have real problems. The first year student, you are going to JSS free, SSS free. No, JSS you pay.
Yes.
So you go to Akosdomo International, pay 14,000 cedis.
Yeah.
Then you come to free SHS free. Then you are going to university.
Or maybe you come from the government primary school free.
Yeah.
Then you go to SS free.
Free. And then now you are going to university, then you are hit with.
Yeah, but Ambassador, government has helped you small.
How is small?
All throughout.
Education is not a privilege.
It's a right.
Education is a right. I would want to sell government land cruisers and fund education. I would want to cut down government expenses and fund education. Don't cap get fund, which is supposed to be for education. Don't cap it. There's so much we can do with cutting down government expenditure. If a government Flagstaff house, we give them a budget of 2 billion. 2 billion. What are they going to do with it?
We are waiting to see the figure this
Yes. What are you going to do with 2 billion? The presidency, the vice president office. Meanwhile, some of those people there are civil servants. So if you're able to cut down unnecessary expenditure, avoid corruption. One young lady designs a scheme and he's taking away national service I'm talking about, taking away every month 100 million or even 10 million. Can't it be used for something profitable? Cut down over politicization, cut down corruption, cut down public expenses. You go to some offices and you ask them, what have you done for the day? If you ask a lady, what have you done for the day? Oh, we call minister in office. He cannot tell you exactly what he has done for the day. We need to confront this, you know, but this can all be corrected either by public policy or by technology. When I was in India, they call us one morning to come and meet the president, the prime minister. And he has brought big men like this, He said he's brought all his PhDs from the world. And you know his message? He said one thing, the meeting closed. I want India to be changed from a snake charming country into a scientific country. Finish, that was the message.
Put your hugs together.
Purpose. Purpose. If as a country we design that we want to have a purposeful country and not a politically divided country, we can do it.
Okay.
No, so even on this table, we are trying to bring ideas together. I don't want to go to radio stations and go and do NDC people. I don't want to do that. I want to do something that brings Ghana together.
Okay. And Nana, you started it off by saying that, I mean, this is like the foundation. I mean, Atuforsen can't get it wrong today.
No, he can't. He can't get it wrong.
He mustn't.
Give me ready. He can't get it wrong.
He must not get it wrong.
You understand? I mean, you see, when you have given birth, the midwives will tell you that first day breastfeeding is very important to the health of the child. You get it? And so they would always tell you that when the child has missed that one, the child would miss a lot of nutrients. Today, we'll tell whether Ghana's economy in the hands of John Dramani Mahama would have the health nutrients it needs to grow. Or we would get koshoko after 3 months. When Uncle was speaking, he said that education is a right and not a privilege. Anytime they have said that, I want to disagree. You are earning 3,000 Ghana cedis, and your child is in a school that pays $3,000. And you expect government to come and pay that one for you. Yeah, let's be realistic. You don't cut your coat according to your size. You cut your coat according to the material available to you. You understand me?
Yeah.
I agree with the school of thought that these freebies for the universities, it shouldn't be so. Uncle, during our days, I did most of my schooling in the north. We go to Senate. You take a loan. I did a paper presentation that dealt with the guarantorship of the loans that we need to have a relook, because at the point we're not getting the Senate contributors to guarantee for us. You get it. So we look at it. The person who is taking the loan himself or herself is the first point of guarantee. Because in Ghana, you cannot finish school and work and not contribute to Senate. It's illegal. So that person should be the first point of guarantee. But the fear of Senate was the person's ability to get a job immediately after school. So this is where government should come in to deal with the issue of job creation. So that the person after school serving national service a year should be able to be absorbed. But what are the incentives that would make existing companies absorb some of these graduates? And you see, if we have some tax exemption incentives to say any company that is in existence that is ready to recruit 10 new graduates, you are getting this percentage of your tax liabilities relieved of you. Don't you think that companies would be willing to absorb some of these graduates?
No.
When we have said, assumably, that banks, when they have declared profit after tax, all right, and they have a certain percentage of their profit after tax available to young and new small, medium enterprises. Those percentage of profit is available to them for capital at affordable rates. And any bank that does that would be getting A, B, C, D of incentives from government. Okay. Don't you think that banks would make these credits available to young enterprises? Wouldn't we be creating jobs?
Okay.
You understand me?
Yeah.
So the enabling environment is not just mouth talk.
Okay.
The enabling environment that needs practical enabling environment, because some of them are not realistic.
Okay.
You get me?
Yeah.
We just sit and we talk plenty, just like Uncle was saying. We speak English.
Ministry of Common Sense.
We speak English. So if we make it very, it's important. We look at those areas.
Okay.
Now, you see, we have created the avenue where these foreign direct investors who come, they come with the already cooked technology. As part of their contract, they will see that local content, transfer of technology. But if you look at the organizational organogram, okay, you will notice that where there can be the proper transfer of technology,
where you know what is happening,
you will not find Ghanaians there.
That's why we must be deliberate.
Yeah.
So we ought to have that level of deliberate actions, policies, and actions.
You know what they want to do.
Because if you leave them, they would work. We should be intentional about it.
Okay. Just hold for me a bit. Let me bring you into the conversation.
You see, surprisingly,
Nana, hold on for me just a minute. Let me bring you into the conversation very briefly. Dr. Abraham Kumsin, he's the Secretary for the Ghana Federation of Labour. Good morning, sir. Thank you so much for joining us this morning.
Good morning.
Sir, I understand Labour, you have made some representations to government through the minister in terms of your expectations for this particular budget. And the context is that, I mean, earlier a few weeks ago, I think days ago actually, when the president addressed the nation during the independence parade, he did indicate that Labour had made a commitment by agreeing to the 10% increase, and that is a commitment that government expects everyone to follow through, and the government itself would also be following through with that. Beyond that expectation, what demands have you specifically made to government?
Well, we are concerned about the mounting of unemployment and the challenges that pose to national security and all that. And especially the flagship campaign message of 24-hour economic policy. We think that if government wants to succeed in the creation of the 24-hour jobs, then of course we have to look at things like the numerous taxes that have been imposed on manufacturing companies, because only the manufacturing industry that can employ, they can expand and employ if they are in good business. But for now, almost about 90% of the local manufacturing industries have gone down. And so if government wants to revive or reactivate these industries, then there's a need for them to make sure that the conditions that caused the collapse of these companies should be looked at. And that is about the taxation. Just 2023, the NPP government imposed some excise duties apart from the e-levy and the other, person tax and all that. There were some very, very serious excise duty that was imposed on this local beverage industry. Calico that the former president used to campaign. And that time, Calipo, a pack cost 50 pesos. As we speak now, Calipo is sold at 5 cedis. Some places need 6 cedis from 50 pesos. And so the manufacturers are unable to sell their products. So these are things that, and even that is the situation that means that workers will lose their jobs because if they cannot produce, or if they produce and they cannot sell, what happens? The workers will have to go. So we've written to the finance minister already, but we've had some personal, engagement with him for him to look at some of these taxes, the excise duties, and all, which are destroying the local manufacturing. Because the economy cannot grow. We all know that any government will depend on taxes to be able to run the economy. But if we impose too much taxes, it will destroy your taxes. So what are these?
Okay.
For the sake of the success of the 24-hour economy policy, they should make sure that any tax or the taxation that is destroying the local industries should be looked at and make sure that, because otherwise, if you kill the industries by these obnoxious nuisance taxes, then what have you achieved? Then we are going to suffer more. Yeah, unemployment is needed. So for DFL, our focus is on the success of the 24-hour economic policy. And that can only happen if the government is, I don't know whether they have already engaged the manufacturing, the investors. If they have engaged them, I'm sure by now they have also, put across their grievances. They don't listen to them. This economic forum they did is good. But that's not enough. You must go down to engage the investors, people who are bringing their money. Some of them are already in the country. Give them the assurance that these nuisance taxes are going to be removed so that you can break even, expand your business, and create jobs for our people. Okay. That's all you are expecting.
Okay. I mean, we'll leave it here for now and see how that goes. I mean, just a couple of hours to come, we'll hear from the finance minister and we can do a bit more analysis in terms of whether expectations have been met. Thank you very much. We heard from Dr. Abraham Kumson. He is the secretary for the Ghana Federation of Labour. And in wrapping up this conversation, I mean, let me just quickly, Nana, you can make your point for me in 30 seconds, land on where you were. Yes. Or I should go and come back.
No, you going so that I just box everything.
I listened to our men on the field, Guta and all that, Ghana Industries. They've complained that the tax is a bit complex. It's difficult to understand that one tax is being understood differently. The one paying understands it differently from the one collecting it.
Okay.
So we should just simplify it, both all those indirect taxes and even the personal income tax. We should find a way to simplify it and we can get enough revenue without necessarily introducing new tax or increasing the tax rate. The same with the digitization. I think Ghana has made some strides. Again, based on my ECOWAS technical presentation, I saw that Ghana was far ahead in terms of digitization. So let's leverage that for revenue collection because there are a number of expenditures that must be financed. So let's try and use the digitization to raise revenue so that we can get rid of all these waste, all these loopholes that we've been talking about, and we can still get enough without necessarily increasing the tax rate or introducing a new tax.
His Excellency.
Well, no country can tax itself to development. No. You can't tax your country for development. Taxes are supposed to control consumption, manage consumption, and also raise revenue. But where people do not see what you use the taxes for, they feel very reluctant to pay. I want a country where I am doing something. I know that if I go to the next office, I should be able to pay my tax without any harassment. Go to GRA. You who is going to pay the tax, as if you are under some, you are in court. The attitude, you know, I want to have a simple system where I feel like going to pay my tax because as a Ghanaian, I know I must pay my tax. Okay. So tax administration must be, you know, humanized. I mean, we should bring a
make it simple.
Make it simple.
Yeah.
You know, if you are a GRA officer, you come to my shop and your first attitude is that I'm going to padlock your shop. No.
Okay.
You know, but I know from the manifesto that we put together. You know, when Alan, you put your manifesto,
yes.
I called Alan. I said, I want a copy of your manifesto because it contains some good sense.
Yeah, you have good reports.
And we used part of it to compare what we have. And I was so happy that Alan himself went and presented to John
Mahama.
Yeah. Unfortunately, when we came to do the economic dialogue, he was not in town.
We were not invited.
Oh, no, you were invited, but Alan was not in town.
No, we were not invited. He would have come to my office.
We will check that.
Party.
We will check that.
We would have had a very good representation.
Yes. But what I am saying is that three of us agree that forcing must not fail.
Not at all.
And the failure, if may God forbid, of John Mahama would signal the doom for democracy in this country. Because there have been studies that have said that people are losing confidence in the democracy that we are running.
Yeah.
Now, everybody must understand, irrespective of the political party that person is, that as a country, we have come to the bottom ground. We need to reset ourselves, our attitudes, you know, way of doing things, and forget about, you see, when we finish elections, it should be thrown away and hold this country up.
Okay.
Because, my brother, have you traveled to somewhere at the airport? You see Air Togo, Air Rwanda, Air Seychelles,
Ethiopian Airlines,
Air Morocco, and then you look around and swear,
no
Airways,
Air Ghana.
The air restaurant.
restaurant, Air Choba. You know, let us have that sense of patriotism, a little love of country, so that we would make this democracy work.
Okay.
Thank you so much.
I mean, Nana, final word.
Yes, I think that this is a very great opportunity for Ato Forson on behalf of the president to be able to convince Ghanaians to manage our expectations. I feel that the expectations are so very high, and it has a dire effect on governance. And so we should use this opportunity to be able to help manage the expectations of Ghanaians.
Okay.
I would also would expect him to be able to put in realistic and practicable measures that would see to dealing with job creation and also infrastructural, solving the issue of infrastructural deficit. We should have in this budget certain attractive incentives that would attract investors, both local and international, to be looking more at BOTs and PPPs.
Okay.
I think that we should go beyond and look elsewhere. You understand? And the reintroduction of the road tolls is very important to me. I was just looking at the figures, as Prof. They would always do. And then I realized that as at the last time of abolishment or suspension, whichever terminology they want to use, road tolls per annum was giving Ghana 72 million Ghana cedis per annum. If we are able to structure road tolls well, all right, and we are able to redesign it, plus technology, I think we should be able to even double or triple this figure. And that would lead us into dealing with the issue of wastage across the entire economy.
Okay.
And so we should be able to look at it. But
not to say that, you see, the man who was the Minister for Roads and Transport, what's the name?
The former one.
Former one.
It was for a long period, it was Amakwata.
Amakwata. he should be charged.
I've stated
he should be
it
charged for causing financial loss to the state.
Not him alone, including the finance minister. Because the amount of money we have lost.
Not only that, you see, you are from Western region. At Beposo, they built a brand new toll booth there. Tema, we built it with loans. Then all of a sudden, you stop it.
Then subsequently, they now announced that they wanted to actually bring it back.
And failed to protect the equipment that you have put there. What have you cost?
Yeah. And you know, just to add to that, that's what I'm saying, that we should take a real look at the BOTs we have and the PPPs that we have. Because some of these infrastructures, like the roads, you understand, you can have private investors who will go into it and they will put up their road tolls, and then they'll recover their money in 10, 15, 20 years. And so it leads me to this Agenda 111 issue, where the health minister is going to look for money to come and complete this. We should go beyond government spending money on it. It was an overly ambitious thing that we did. We should be able to talk to private investors. We should be able to talk to the missions. We should be able to even attract traditional and herbal medicine practitioners who are, because now they are all building hospitals. If we are able to attract them
and regulate them properly
and give them proper or appealing contracts and deals, some of them have money enough to be able to advance some of these.
The paradox though is that who then owns your economy?
In fact, but if
they are Ghanaians,
it's all those are matters that we'll discuss further. I mean, once the budget comes out. My guest this morning have been Nana Yao Sapon. He is with the Movement for Change, a senior political aide to Alan Kojo Chairman. I was also joined by Dr. Edu Owusu Sako. He is an economist at the University of Ghana. Ambassador Sampi Yale is with the NDC Professionals Forum. He joined us as well. And just before we go, just a bit of message that came in. Yes, from Ambassador. Yes, His Excellency. Kwablavi from Pokwasi says this year's budget is going to touch lives Ghanaians. It is going to be a budget that will cut down utility bills, housing and rent, plus food commodities. Okay, MPP members say there's nothing in the budget, but the good stuff in the budget will put them to shame. Okay, we'll wait and see. Just one more here. This one is a birthday message. If I don't do it, I'll be in trouble. A happy birthday going out to an exceptional mother, Mavis Ashon. May the heavens align in your favor, and may you never lack anything good in this life. We love you, Mom. From Ella, Alex, and the rest of the family, we wish you a beautiful birthday. And that is coming from Alex, Ella, and the rest of the family. He adds hashtag the big issue. This has been the big issue this morning. Don't forget, we have a comprehensive coverage of the budget. You have to just stay, don't go anywhere. We'll give you everything that will be transparent.
The finance minister, I beg him, I am a Christian. When he wants to start the budget with a scripture from the Bible, he should be honest in his heart that he will follow through.
We'll leave it. We'll see what you wear and which bag you'll be carrying into it. But the show continues. Like I said, stay here. The coverage continues. I am Joseph Akabile. Stay tuned in.